This video goes over Unit 3, Lesson 24 on functions. So let's go to the overview page. On the overview page, your learning goals, you're going to learn how to create and use functions for blocks of code that perform a single high-level task within a program. You're also going to learn how to create and use functions to remove repeated blocks of code from programs, and how to create and use functions to improve the readability of a program. And you should be able to explain how abstractions allow programmers to reason about a program at a higher level. You need to read and complete all the content, materials, and activities, and you need to do the lesson assignment on functions. So we click Next, and you are going to learn two new pieces of code. You're going to learn how to define a function and how to call a function. So watch this video on calling and defining functions. As you watch the video, think about what code would go in the define of a function. When would you call the function? What would you name it? So you need to watch this video before you go to the game lab in code.org. The next page here is a lesson that shows how functions are used, shows how you call, how you create a function, how it should be named. So you need to read through this. So you have, this is creating a function and how it should be named. And the name of this function here is called reset drawing. And then how you call a function. So there's two pieces of code. You have to create the function, and then this is your call for the function. So here it is why use functions? Because it keeps your code organized. It keeps your code readable. It removes repetition. On this next page here is your assignment. So go ahead and click Functions and make a copy of that assignment page so that you can paste your code in, your links in there. So here we go for lesson 24, and you're going to learn again how to create, name, and call functions. So you're going to go through levels 1 through 10, and you are going to either input your answer or put your share link in these areas. So let's go to code.org. Here we are in code.org, lesson 24, functions. Go ahead and click the first level here. And here's the same video that we had in Canvas had you watch. You can also re-watch this as many times as you want if you forget how to use a function. So that is at level 1. Go to level 2. On level 2, you're going to learn how to call a function. So if you read through here, I always like to run the code first just to kind of see what the code is doing before I even read the instructions. Functions let you build your own blocks and decide what code goes inside of them. This program has already created 2 functions, but only one of them is being called. Call the second function to reveal the full image. Use the function that is being called as a guide. So we can see that there's a background and the sun. So if we look at this code here, we see this function called draw sky. We also see a function called draw balloons. But we see a debug code here in a yellow triangle that says draw balloons is not defined. It's not called in your program. So if you read through this, you can see, because you've watched that video before in level 1, if you watch that video on how to call and define functions, then you would know that you have to put, here's your define a function where you create it, and then here's the code block that calls the function. So I have a function called draw sky. I have the call block draw sky, but I have the function draw balloons, but I'm missing the call block. for draw balloons. So here is your call block that you need to drag over and then name it the exact same as this function here called draw balloons, and then reset, run that program, and if you see the balloons along with the sky being drawn, then has successfully called the function. So then you would just click your share button, get your link, and then paste that over to your assignment page. Then go to level 3. And in level 3, this one goes over reordering code. So read through this. I like to run this first, and you can see that there's nothing happening because there's something wrong. So I've got all these triangles, yellow triangles, warning me that something's wrong. So it says, draw background is not defined. Draw trees. Draw the clouds. Draw the fence. So I've got 3 functions here, four functions that should be showing on GameLab. But it says this program has created 4 functions, but nothing's working. Read them. Call the functions in an order that draws the scene in the way that looks best to you. So you're going to go to the functions and you're going to start, dragging over your call function button, and you're going to do that for each one. Now remember that the code reads from the top down. So if you want whatever function that you want drawn first, so if you want to draw your background first, you should call it first. If you want to draw the trees next, then you would call it next. Or if you want to draw the clouds next, then you would have that one next. So you can order those call functions as you bring them over any way that you want. You don't have to go in this order of draw background, trees, clouds, and fence. You can order those calls in any way you want, the way that looks best to you for that scene. So when you're done with that, when you click reset and run after you've added in those 4 calls, then you will have a background and trees with clouds and a fence. When you have that completed, then you are done with level 3. Click the share button, copy the link, paste it in the assignment, and then go to level 4. Level 4 is just a multiple choice question, and you need to answer this because it's going to get you thinking. So does it matter where you create functions? So far, all of your functions have been created at the bottom of your code. What do you think will happen if you call a function before it's defined? So it wants you to read this code. You have 2 functions here, draw red, draw green. But you call draw red first, and draw green is called at the bottom. So what do you think the answer is here? After you select that answer, then click run to see if you got it right. And then go to level 5. Level 5, if you look over here on the assignment page, you have to choose one. Okay, so you're either going to calling functions in a draw loop, call the function to draw the background in the draw loop. Calling functions multiple times. On this one, you will make the flyer reappear on the right side when it goes off the left. And on this activity, making changes to functions, that's when you change the set flyer function so that the flyer appears at a random y with a random velocity. So you can see the examples here. And then the last choice you have is creating functions to organize code. So I want you to add code to the draw night function to create a night scene. So these, you would choose which one you want. You might want to go look at them first. And so you would click on one, go look through the directions, and obviously run it, and go through these directions, and there's help and tips right here. You can also go back and watch the video on level 1 on how to create and call functions. And once you've got that looking, if you want to go back and look at what it's supposed to be, it's supposed to look like this. Okay, so that's for A. So once you have that, if you do A, once it looks like this, then you have completed that, and you would click the share button and get the link and paste that in. Or you can try this one, B, and this one, obviously you'd run it and you would follow the directions. Okay, so you would follow these directions and follow through that one. When you're done and it tells you what to do, this code creates a sprite that moves across the screen. How can you make it go back across the screen? So now it's only going once, but you need it to loop. It says right here, read the condition of the if statement inside the draw loop. Why do you think it's there? So you are going to need to fix this if statement because it's missing code in line 8. Because you want to get that flyer to show back up. Now you've done this in previous lessons. You did this with the rocks that were falling and moving to the right and left, where they had to show back up on the other side of the screen. So you might have to go back to a previous lesson to go back and learn how to make those loop. Okay, or to show back up and doing that loop where it just keeps going back across the screen. Okay, so once you have that one, again, you can click the share, or you can click on here and go back to 5 and decide to do this one, making changes to functions. Okay, or you might decide to do D. So again, you only have to choose one, and you might have to go back and look at other lessons to remember some of the coding techniques. After you're done with that, then go to 6. 6 is just a quick check, and we actually saw this in Canvas when it listed 3 ways that functions can be useful when you are writing programs. So if you go back to Canvas, it's on one of those lesson pages. It says the 3 ways functions can be useful. All right, so you would type those answers right there and then click submit and then go to level 7. And on level 7, you get to write your own function. So on this one, it says time to practice writing functions of your own. This is a very simple game in which coins fall from the sky and the bunny tries to catch them. All you need to do is write the function that sets up the coin. So let's run this. So right now nothing's happening. I can move my bunny left and right, but the coin is not falling from the sky. So this game here actually covers level 7, 8, and 9, where the bunny is trying to catch the coins that should be falling from the sky. So the first thing in level 7 is you need to read and run the code, which is what we did, and read through that code. So we know that the bunny moves left and right, but the coin is not falling down. So write the code for the set coin function to do the following. Set the coin's velocity to move down. So that's Y. Set the coin's Y position to the top of the screen, and then randomize that coin's X position so it's not falling from the same place at the same time. So if we look down here in the workspace, all the way down here at the bottom on line 30 is the set coin function. So within there, you need to do those 3 things right here that they've listed. So it says set the coin's velocity to move down. Okay, so you would need to go to sprites and use the sprite velocity Y, right? And just drop that in there. And then you've got to figure out how to do the rest of that code I just dropped in. Then it says set the Y's position to the top of the screen. Okay, so it's like, okay, set the Y's position to the top of the screen. So this would just be adding that block. And then you've got to figure out the rest of that code. And then the other one says randomize the coin's position. So that would be its X, right? So we would say you would drop this code in, and then you're going to use random number in this area here. So I've kind of given you a little tip to get that started. You're going to have to figure out what you're going to name these sprites and what goes on the right side. And if it works correctly, that coin will be falling down on the screen, and it will reset itself to a different position. So once you've got that working where the coin is falling and it's randomly resetting, then go to level 8. On level 8, you are going to now have the score increase once the bunny touches the coin. So let's look at what, so far, before you do anything in level 8, where you're at right now. If you did level 7 correct, it should kind of look like this. So you should have that coin falling. That's all you had to do in level 7. Just make it fall and make it randomly reset and go somewhere else at the top and just drop at different areas. Okay, but now you need to make that score change. Okay, so you need to be able to tell when the bunny is touching the coin and then reset it back up to the top. So when it's touching the coin, the score has to go up by 1, and then the coin is reset and tells it to reset and go back up to the top. So right here it says, use an if statement and the is touching block to increase the score when the bunny catches the coin. Make sure you're calling your function to reset the coin once it's been caught. So if we look down in here, we need to add an if statement in there. To do that, you would need to add that if statement in your draw function, somewhere in here. So you would need to add an if statement in there. And then from here, remember you need to use the if touching. So it says if statement and the is touching block to increase the score. So remember, you're going to go back to sprites. You're going to use that is touching block, right in there. And then within here, you've got to do that score equals score plus 1 code. And then you need to do the coin or the sprite.y equals where its location is, and the sprite.x with a random number. So if you look down here, you can see like here is the location that makes it go back up to the top. There's the code there that makes it go back up to the top. And then here's the one that makes it randomly. So you can actually reuse this code in 35 and 36 up in here or copy it. So you're going to put if, right, is touching, and then you need to say, okay, it needs to increase the score by 1. Right, so you learned how to do that, score equals score plus 1. Then you need to place the sprite y in there, and then the sprite x, because you've got to reset where that coin, where its y position is going to be, and where its x position is going to be. So all of that goes in your if statement. Once you're done with level 8, you should have something similar to this, where when the coin touches the bunny or the bunny touches the coin, then the score goes up. So as I'm moving the bunny, the score is going up. If the bunny doesn't touch the coin, then the score doesn't go up. So that's what you should see. Then you can go to level 9. So here in level 9, you want to change the background with the score. So they're asking you, once you've caught 10 coins, it's time to celebrate. You should change the background to be something fun. It says use the if statement and 2 separate functions to draw your backgrounds. Then go write your functions outside of your draw loop. You get to decide what a simple or silly background are, and then have fun with that. So just to get you started here, you would need to go to your control, grab that if statement, and just drop it into the draw loop, that draw function loop. And then from there, you need to say if the score is greater than 10, or you could say greater than or equal to 10, then change the background with the score. So you would want to put in a math code here, and I'm not sure why they're not giving the greater than, but it's easy enough to change. So if you want to just drop that in there and then go to show text up in the upper right, and then on that line just change the direction of that to be greater than, and then go back to show blocks. So in here, just to get you started, you would put in here score is greater than 10. Okay? Or you could put greater than and equal to. So you can go back to the show text and you can change that to greater than equal to 10. So that means if it's 10 or more, then your background's going to change. But you can go ahead and just start with there. Now inside here, this is where you're going to call your function. So remember, it said you got to create two separate functions to draw your background. So you can just grab a function down at the bottom and call that your, silly background. So I'm just kind of getting you started here. And then you're going to draw in here with your drawing tools. You can put in your background color and whatever else you want and put in there, ellipses, whatever you want to draw for your background. Okay? And you can do that, whatever color you want to change it to, doesn't matter, but you would just draw a background in there. Okay? So if your function is down here, it says it wants you to create two different background functions. So this is just one, and I'm just kind of putting stuff in there, but you want to draw more of a background than what I've just done. So add more than I did. And then you would want to call this function up here within line 20, within this line. So in other words, you're going to drop in that function right there and then use the word silly background, because that's going to say if the score is greater than 10, then go with the silly background. You could say if the score is less than 10, then run the other background. Otherwise, so there's different ways you can do this. So this is your chance to add in two different functions that draw two different backgrounds, and then to add in that if statement. So when the score is greater than, or you could say the score is equal to 10, but you want to put greater than or equal so that it keeps having that fun background that you created. And then you would call out that function by putting it in there and then making sure you name it right. Okay, so that's level 9. Once you have that working where you catch, the bunny catches at least 10 coins or more, and the background changes. Once you have that worked out, then go to, you would get the share link, and you can see here on your assignment page, that's the collector game, so it's level 7 through 9, and that's where you're going to paste your share link. So you click share, copy your link, go over here and paste it in. Okay, so that's at the end, that's level 9. Then you go to level 10. And on level 10, we don't do free play. You will be doing creating functions to draw scenes. So on this one, it wants you to create two functions to draw two different scenes. Well, you kind of already did that with the bunny catching the coin, or we call it the collector game that we just did in level 7 through 9. So you would just click on here. They kind of give you an example right there that you could use. If you look up here, you could create something similar to that, or create whatever you want. So when your mouse, and they've already started the code for you, so when the mouse is on the scene, it changes here. When the mouse goes off of the game lab, it changes to a different scene. Okay, so follow those directions. It says you got the code, so it calls for draw scene 1, draw scene 2, but they don't exist. So you would, just to get you started, you need to create those functions. So you need to bring over two functions. One would be draw scene 1, draw scene 2, and then make your backgrounds. Okay, so that's all you need to do. You don't have to do the example that they're showing you there. You can do any example you want. You just need to have two different scenes. Okay, and once you're done with that, then you would click the share link, copy it, and then paste it over here into your challenge. And that is it for lesson 24 on functions. You can go back and you can always watch the video back on level 1, and to kind of just refresh your memory or help you out with your coding of how to define a function, how to call that function that you've created. You can also go back and refer to any previous lessons for coding that you might need. So that is it for lesson 24.